What happened in gym class that resulted in the police being called? Anxiety filled me as the cops spilled through the gym double doors, pulling the gym teacher to the side for a private conversation. I stood apart from my classmates, arms folded across my chest in a defensive position. Somehow I was pulled into this drama and I did nothing wrong, but I was going to have to defend myself against a crime I didn't commit. Everyone knew I was a good kid. I didn't drink or do drugs. I was a straight A student and student body president, yet somehow I found myself in trouble. A moment later, my dad burst through the doors and hurried over to me to make sure I was okay. The cops broke away from the teacher and joined us in the corner of the gym. "What's the meaning of this, officer?" my dad asked in a calm voice, but his hands were shaking slightly with nerves or anger. I couldn't tell. The taller cop frowned. "Your daughter stands accused of doing drugs. The teacher found pills in her gym locker." "I didn't do anything," I protested. "They weren't mine. I'm being set up." The officer shook his head. "Either way, you need to come with us." I glanced at the crowd of students, my eyes landing on Zane Edwards. Everyone in town knew Zane was a pothead and drug runner. He has had multiple run-ins with the police before, so I didn't understand why the officers were more likely to blame me more than him. He had to be the one to plant the drugs in my locker, right? I was never a fan of Zane. He and I never got along. He always called me a goody two-shoes, and I always called him a bully. In my defense, he was a bully, a big one. Every time he passed me in the halls, he would shoulder me out of the way hard. In the gym, he always made sure to throw balls at my face no matter what sport we were playing. Or if we were running a mile on Fridays, he would run beside me and critique everything about my running until I ran faster to try to get rid of him. The teacher knew how he acted and did nothing. I think our teacher was afraid of Zane because the boy's dad was mayor of the town. He always got off scot-free and it annoyed me. I was tired of him always getting away with everything. It was before gym class that I opened my locker to get my gym uniform out to change when the teacher was walking by at that exact moment. A baggie of pills and white powder spilled from the open locker and my teacher froze. "What's that?" My mouth went dry with fear. "Nothing. I don't know." "Is that drugs?" My teacher immediately leaped into action. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and called the sheriff's office. "Yes, hi, I have a student here who was caught with drugs in their locker." He listened for a beat before nodding to himself. "I'll keep her in the gym with the rest of the class. Thank you." Then he hung up and shot me a disappointed look. "It's not mine," I insisted, but he didn't want to listen. Instead, he grabbed my arm and dragged me into the gym where the rest of the class waited. There was nothing left to do but to wait for the cops. I called my dad and explained the situation. I could hear the anger in his reply as he told me he was on his way. I felt bad because that meant he had to leave work early, but if anyone could get me out of this mess, it was him. The cops arrived moments later, followed by my dad. After talking to us, one of them pulled out a pair of handcuffs. "Is that really necessary?" my dad asked. "It's protocol," the taller cop answered. "Turn around, young lady." I was shaking with nerves as I did as I was told. It wasn't me. My voice was barely a whisper, and it was no surprise that I was ignored again. Right as the officers were about to lead me out of the gym, one of my classmates stood up quickly and jogged over to us. "Wait, I have evidence that it wasn't her." The officers paused and nodded for him to continue. He held out his cell phone and pulled up a video. We watched Zane pick the lock on my locker, pull open the door, and drop the baggie inside before shutting the door firmly. The cops paused and turned to look at Zane, who immediately stood and ran for the doors. The taller cop took after Zane as the other cop unlocked my handcuffs, releasing me before following his partner. I watched as the taller cop tackled Zane to the ground with a thud that made me wince. Zane started swearing and threatening the cops with their jobs as the other cop snapped the cuffs around his wrists. Without a word to anyone, they dragged him out of the gym. Relief filled me. He's finally getting what he deserves.